This is BBC Two with See Here on Saturday.
Hi. Well, we've had loads of faxes and video letters telling us that you love the new programme. It's your programme, so do let us know what you think about it. So, what have we got for you today? Well, the crews have been hard at it all summer, out there filming. One story took Memnos down to Plymouth to catch up with a unique group of deaf children from Russia. I'm sure that many of you will have dreamt of a life treading the boards. Well, we met up with theatre director Jenny Seeley to find out what theatre life is really like.
The whole thing is about whether you're alive or whether you're mock. Yeah? Feel happy with that?
Perhaps the summer sunshine we had turned your thoughts to the garden. Well, we have our very own gardening expert to give you a few hints. I'll be reviewing a special book of poetry, but now over to the newsroom to see what's happening in the deaf world.
Hello, I'm Clive Mason. The National Deaf Children's Society has criticised the government's Green Paper on welfare reform, claiming that it fails to recognise the needs of children with disabilities. The NDCS has called on the government to recognise the needs of deaf children by ensuring communication support for all deaf children and free sign language classes for their parents. The NDCS were also critical of the government's emphasis in the Green Paper on welfare to paid work, which they believe devalued the often unpaid caring role provided by many parents. A report published by Living Options, a Devon-based voluntary organisation, argues that services for people with a visual and/or hearing loss could be improved through the creation of local user groups. The report claims that setting up of such a group in Devon has led to people with sensory impairments having better access to health, social and other services. It's also allowed them to express their views and make demands without risking prejudice or labelling.
Deaf and hard of hearing people, as well as partially sighted and blind people in North Devon, have managed to express their concerns and their issues to each other as part of the group, and also taken those concerns directly to the professionals. The guidelines that we've written about their experiences have national implications. They can be taken up by any group to set up their own sensory group or any other consultative group involving people with disabilities.
The world premiere of the play A Minute of Silence, written by Harris Friedman, is being staged at Upstairs at the Gatehouse Theatre from the 6th to the 31st of October as part of Deaf Awareness Week in the London Borough of Camden. The play offers a glimpse of the world through the eyes of Barry, a deaf man, and challenges many of the hearing world's misconceptions about deafness. BSL is an integral part of the play. Tickets range from £5 to £10. For more information on performance times, check out our website or contact Metal Productions direct on fax 0171 584 0760. Join me later for a roundup of the international and national news, but for now, back to Lara.
Back in April 1986 in Russia, there was a huge explosion at a nuclear plant. The resulting radiation spread far and wide and contributed to many people developing cancer. Many people died, leaving children without parents. Recently, a charity decided that these children in Russia deserved our help, and to date 40,000 of them have visited the UK and stayed with families over here. For many, it was the holiday of a lifetime. Memnos went down to Devon to find out more.
Well, there are 100 charities in the link, but none like this one. We really wanted to help these children because they're deaf, and no one was helping deaf children. We looked at the list of children who were in need of help, and altogether there were 800,000 children on the list, with no one to help them.
Did you enjoy the swimming?
Yeah, it was good. Very warm.
So would it be cold at home?
It would be cold at home. We wouldn't really swim at home. This is good because it's warm, not like home at all. Great.
You've been here a while now, so when you go home, will you be sad? Has it been good?
I think I will be sad to go, yeah.
What about your friends?
Yeah, I think we're all going to be sorry to leave.
Some of these children have serious health problems. Our group consists of 12 children, and 5 of them have pre-cancer, real health problems. Some of them will have heart conditions, and some of them will die. But hopefully, having been here for a month, it will give them a bit more strength and help them to fight the cancer. Most of the families looking after the children couldn't sign before the children came over. So I helped them out with some basic English signing. Then when the children arrived, they quickly learned some English signs. So communication was pretty easy.
The deaf children are all being looked after by local families. One family are deaf, and they're looking after one boy called Alexander. They are Jean and Andrew Lethbridge. And they've invited me to join them for breakfast, which is great because I'm starving.
We got involved because we were at the Deaf Club and we saw a poster advertising the Chernobyl Children's Helpline. It said they needed volunteers to look after the children. So I mentioned it to Andrew because it was the summer holidays and we had time on our hands. It's a quiet time and our 2 boys are grown up. They tend to be out and about doing their own thing now. So I thought, why not get involved? So I talked to Andrew about it and we agreed.
That's right, yeah, we agreed we'd do it.
We thought it'd be nice for the kids because they need this kind of holiday and they get to see a different kind of culture. And then there's a role model aspect of living with 2 deaf people. These children have never met deaf adults. Never.
It's good. We've done lots of fun things. Like we've been swimming. And we played on the water slide and stuff. I really like that. It's great.
Wow, this week has been fantastic. I've had a great time. While the children have been here, they've all been for hearing tests, including Alexandra, and 4 of them will be given hearing aids. That means that when they get back to Russia, they may experience the sounds of their home for the very first time, and that will be quite an experience for them. They've also got lots of new clothes and things that they can take home and share out among their school friends. It's been a very sobering experience for me chatting with these kids and learning about their lives. And I'm delighted that they've had such a great time over here. And I'm sure it's something that will stay with them forever.
Looks like Memnos and the kids were having a ball down there. Next year another group of children will be coming over and the charity are already looking for host families. If it's something that you think you'd like to be involved in, then do let us know. Many of you will remember the famous poet, writer and actress Dot Miles, who sadly died 5 years ago. She was best known for her poetry, its beauty and elegance when performed in BSL. Remember this?
I remember in darkness, waking and wondering why I feel excitement bubbling within. And suddenly magic is all around me, like shivery fingers on my skin. And I know at last it's Christmas Day.
The British Deaf History Society recently published a book called Bright Memory. This is it. It's a collection of many poems. With us today is Jean St. Clair to sign one of them. It's called Conversation, and it's about Dot's memories of her trip across the United States and of all the hearing people that she met. Here it is.
Yes, I am deaf. No, I can't hear at all. No matter if you shout in my ear. I lip read, yes. Thank you, my speech is good, because I heard when small. And must you say, good for a deaf person? You wouldn't say you walk well for a cripple. Oh no, I don't read Braille. I'm not yet blind. And this? It's called sign language. Do I drive? Of course. You ask me how. I don't need ears to steer with. Oh, the sirens. Well, they don't come up often. But when needed, my eyes become my ears. Yes, that's a clever phrase. Not my creation. Me? What do I do? I write. No, not a student. Poetry, plays, and such, that's what I try. Really, not wonderful. People like me all over have fancy jobs and high positions, and many more would if doors could open. More wonderful if someday you accept we too are human. Oh, pardon, I didn't mean to get excited. I've hurt your feelings. Sorry. Yes, and you have hurt our feelings, unwittingly it's true, by centuries of kindness, help and pity.
It's really moving for me to see that again. We published the book, Bright Memory, in Dot's memory. Before she died, we had wanted to publish her poems in English, but it wasn't until after she died that it finally came to fruition.
Dot was in America when she wrote the poem Conversation. How did it come about?
It came out of the frustration that she felt at the hearing people she met and their attitudes at the time. They're still there now. Patronising attitudes towards deaf people. And when a deaf person does something, they say how marvellous it is and gush with praise. It's not. We're just the same as anybody else and we can do the same things as anybody else if we're not put down and patronised. She felt that strongly and she wrote about it.
How did Dot go about creating her poetry?
Well, she wrote them down first of all so they would be in English. But then when she was in America, she came across the NTD, that's the National Theatre of the Deaf, and she realised from that these poems could be performed in sign language. So after that, she conceived them in her head in sign, and they would then need to be translated back onto paper. So some originated in English and some in sign.
Did Dot have a favourite poem?
I couldn't say which one was her favourite, I've no idea. There are so many, and everyone will have his or her own favourite. There's always one with something in there that we can relate to in a very personal way. One person will relate to one of them and someone else to another. I think that each one will meet someone's needs in some way or other.
Dot's poetry is unique, unlike anyone else's. Why is that?
It's different because often poetry is written in rhyme. And Dot's poetry does rhyme, but it rhymes in sign language. It flows, it's just lovely to watch. That's a very different approach to written poetry, although it is possible to draw some comparisons. Dot's poetry is so different because it contains something magical, and there's just nothing else like it. You just couldn't find any other work with that same kind of magic.
Thank you for coming in. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.
Do you have green fingers? Do you know the difference between a hollyhock and a hydrangea? I know I don't. But gardening's long been a popular pastime. You should see the crowds at garden centres on a Sunday. So we've brought in our very own resident gardening expert. Wow, this is gorgeous. Come on and tell us, how did you get into gardening?
Well, I remember being a baby and being given a flower and not knowing what it was. But I just loved its colour and fragrance, and I think my love of flowers came from that. I've been working on this garden for 20 years now, and it's been hard work. It was awful when I moved in, but let's have a look around.
That's lovely.
Yeah, the reds and the pinks. I think I'd better show you a photograph of what it looked like when I first came here. And this is after I cut everything down. Oh, yeah, there was such a lot of work. I tell you, it nearly killed me. Yeah, it is a big garden. There must be over 100 different plants here.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I think there must be. Although the weather hasn't been very good this year, it's been too dry. When it rained, then the sun's come out and dried the ground up again. The weather's very important, because, well, you need a lot of water, and a good balance of water and sunshine is the happy medium. If you have too much sunshine, well, you get poor quality flowers. It's really frustrating. And lots of people are saying that this year's been bad for gardens. Anyway, you can see that I've managed to keep the lawn quite nice and green. Most people's have gone brown. And my secret there is that when I've done my washing up, I keep the water. Yep, and I put it in a watering can, and about 8 or 9 in the evening, I water the lawn with it. That's why it's so green, and that's my secret. You never run a hose on the tap, because that makes the ground really hard, and then the roots can't breathe. Anyway, I've got to plant some bulbs now. I'll show you how to do it if you like. Do you want to learn something?
Bulbs. All right then, let's go.
Right, now what I'm going to do is to show you how to plant hyacinths. With these bulbs, you've got to be very careful how you handle them, because they're specially prepared bulbs. There are others which you can plant out in the garden, but these are specially prepared for growing indoors. So the first thing you need is a pot, any kind of pot. I'm using these old chamber pots, but you need to make sure that they're clean, very clean. They actually have to be sterile, so they must be cleaned properly. And first, you have to fill them up halfway.
Oh, you use that.
Now, you'll notice that it's very wet. That's because it's watered and then left overnight. It has to be wet, but if you put it in dry and add water, it's a bit messy, you know. So the water helps keep it down. Press it down lightly. Yours are going to have white flowers, and these will be pink, and that's why I'm using this pot.
Good idea.
Then, what you've got to do is fill it up to the neck of the bulb. About there. Not over the top, just there.
Have I done it right?
Absolutely perfect.
Great, thanks.
You're an expert now.
Oh, thanks. Right, now what?
Well, now what happens is you've got to put them in a dark cupboard that's cold. You then create a false winter to fool them. You leave them there until about the middle of November, and then you bring them out of the cold, and they grow because they think it's summer, even though it's actually winter. You see, I want them to be in flower for Christmas, so you've got to fool them.
I get the idea.
And that's my indoor gardening tip.
Great. Thanks, Norman. We'll be bringing you more gardening tips throughout the series. Now, we're delighted to have received so many of your comments on the new programme, and it's really easy to get in touch. You can minicom, fax, email or send a video letter. Here's a couple of those we've received.
I loved the new series of See Here on Saturday. A new presenter, new faces. The 999 item was great. There's news, interviews. I was very impressed. I think it's really worth having a look at the new style programme. It's especially youth orientated. It's great.
The programme is great. The location at Wolverhampton is spot on. It's fresh, it's young, the films are good, it's fast moving, very youthful. The presenters, like Memnos and Lara, are great, new young people. But my problem is the cookery item. No, there are enough cookery programmes on TV already. Please, just concentrate on the deaf issues.
As you know, theatre is traditionally difficult for us to access, but these days it's getting better with more signed performances being staged. But what goes on behind the scenes? Well, we went backstage to see Alice, an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, which really is accessible. So let's go and take a look.
Thank you for saving my bacon.
Yes, so deaf, thank you for saving my bacon means literally you've saved my breakfast. So it's life, isn't it? So thank you for saving my life. Yeah. Let's just do that.
Right. Thank you for saving my life. I'm sorry. Wrong person.
Since joining Grey Eye, it's been the first time I've ever had interpreters in rehearsal, which is just absolute joy. Just have that backup of support, but also using them as part integrated completely into the production. It's like working with translation into BSL. You learn so much about the piece of text, and you have to translate it in its essence. So very quickly you get the essence of what the writer is saying. And also, I mean, there is also the problem of, with Alice, it's such a play on words, it's so hearing. To try and translate some of the hearing puns, it's been a battle.
Oh, thank you for saving my bacon.
I thought only pigs had bacon.
When you're amongst something, you can be anything.
I don't want to be anything but myself.
How lucky you are.
But I only recently realised it. Before I came here, I always felt like I didn't quite fit in.
Like, I don't quite fit into this can.
But now, I don't want to fit in.
Me neither.
So let's not.
Never again.
Jenny's fabulous. I mean, we keep calling her the new artistic director of the Grey Eye Company, and indeed she is, but this is, I think it's her second or third show that she's done with them, the first here. She's got a long connection with the Drill Hall. She started out working here behind the bar. We're sitting in the bar at the moment. So we are absolutely delighted that she's back in the capacity of artistic director of a leading company, and it's very thrilling for us, and I think it's fun for people in the building who have seen her progress.
Right then, let's be having you out of there.
Oh, yes, please. Oh, no, not the can opener.
Most theatres have at least one sign language interpretive performance, so it might be on a Wednesday night, and if myself, as a member of the audience, can't make that Wednesday night, I miss the sign language interpretive performance. It's deeply frustrating. Therefore, that is why a policy was made by Grey Eye to have all their performances accessible to the deaf community. when I first became deaf, because I was still speaking, I wasn't allowed really into the deaf community, so I went to hearing school. And then when I was 21, I met my first deaf person who signed. And for the first time in my life, I thought, oh, I can sign. I can do this. I am part of something. But I'm partially deaf, and my British Sign Language is not fantastic. If I'm with an all BSL using group, I'm fine, I can get by, but I'm still not fantastic. And I'm certainly not confident enough to use full BSL and see here. Maybe one day I will, but right now, no.
I mean, where does the mock turtle go?
Goes to the sea.
To the sea.
That's very
Yes,
cute.
it just buffs, absolutely. The one cloud that escapes. Yeah?
I think I was employed because I was good. And the job was only open to disabled people. So I don't quite know whether it's because I'm easy or whether it's a hard one. It's whether one day would I be brave enough to take my hearing aid out and be that profoundly deaf person that I am without my hearing aid. Could I do that? Would that make me a better director of Grey Eye? Or would that make me not Jenny? I don't know.
Unfortunately, that tour has come to an end, but you can find out more from our web pages, address at the end of the programme. But now, over to the newsroom with Clive for this week's main stories.
Hello. This week, the news has been dominated by the publication of a report produced by independent counsel Kenneth Starr into allegations of sexual misconduct, cover-up and perjury by President Clinton. US politicians now have to decide whether there is a case to begin the process of impeachment against the president, which would remove him from office. Many of these politicians are themselves facing elections in November and will be trying to keep in step with public opinion over the issue. Recent polls suggest that more than half of Americans believe Mr. Clinton deserves some kind of censure, but overall his approval rating remains strong at between 59 to 67%. Certainly there are rumours that a compromise is being discussed with the president's staff which would condemn his behaviour but stop short of forcing him out of office. Some commentators believe that Kenneth Starr may have weakened his own case by including too many graphic sexual details in his report of President Clinton's relationship with Monica Lewinsky. Furthermore, the report made virtually no mention of the so-called Whitewater affair, a series of land deals involving both the President and Mrs. Clinton, which Mr. Starr has been investigating for several years. Meanwhile, it looks likely that President Clinton's video evidence to the grand jury on the Lewinsky affair will be made public and may be broadcast on American television. To add to the president's troubles, a videotape has come to light which shows him leading a young woman into a private corridor of the White House. Although the incident may be totally innocent, it has fueled speculation that there could be more embarrassing revelations about President Clinton's private life. The Prime Minister has said that some problem housing estates have become so bad that they should be demolished. His comments came with the launch of a government report which sets out proposals costing £800 million to improve some of the UK's worst neighbourhoods. Initially, 17 areas are to be invited to bid for grants of up to £50 million each, from a scheme that the government is calling New Deal for Communities. In a preface to the report, the Prime Minister outlined the main problems faced by the poorest neighbourhoods: badly maintained housing, unemployment, street crime, drugs, a lack of shops and vital services. The report blames mistakes by past governments which have tended to concentrate the poor and unemployed together, and says that in the future resources will be directed at people and not just at buildings. Mr. Blair launched the initiative during a visit to the Holly Street estate in Hackney, East London. At the same time, the nation's insurance companies have revealed that crime is costing the economy some £35 billion a year, or £31 per week for every household in the UK. The figures show that more money is spent tackling and preventing crime than on the entire defence budget. Now Northern Ireland. The members of the new Northern Ireland Assembly met at the Parliament building at Stormont to discuss the implementation of the Good Friday Agreement on the political future of the province. The meeting of the Assembly comes amid renewed optimism that Northern Ireland is edging towards normality. Up to 500 British troops are set to leave the province in the coming weeks as the scaling down of security continues. Hundreds of soldiers have been killed since the army was sent into the province in 1969 because of widespread civil disorder.
For him today, giving him, and you have been compelled by even in opposition, nor have we ever said that
Despite the optimism, Northern Ireland's First Minister David Trimble says the biggest problem the Assembly faces is the handover of terrorist weapons. Many Unionist members of the Assembly believe that the Republican Sinn Féin party should not be granted ministerial posts until the IRA gives up all its military supplies. Sinn Féin, often called the political wing of the IRA, has rejected the demand as contrary to the Good Friday Agreement. Although Sinn Féin Assembly member Martin McGuinness is represented on the international decommissioning body headed by a Canadian general, there has so far been no sign of the IRA handing over its huge stock of weapons. Health Secretary Frank Dobson has announced that Viagra, the anti-impotence drug, will not be available through the NHS until the government has considered the financial implications. Mr. Dobson said that demand for the drug, fueled by the intense media coverage, could drain NHS resources and raise questions about health service priorities. The makers of Viagra have expressed surprise at the government announcement and claimed that using Viagra could cut other NHS costs such as treating impotent men for depression. The Home Secretary Jack Straw has called for a crackdown on racist material published on the internet. He has called on governments across the world to work together to remove illegal websites and to prosecute those responsible. In a speech to the Board of Deputies of British Jews, the Home Secretary revealed that the National Criminal Intelligence Service would act against threatening, abusive and racist material. Earlier this year, the service identified racism as one of the main ways in which the internet was abused. The Ministry of Defence has announced that the famous Royal Tournament is to be axed and replaced with a more modern spectacle for the millennium. The 118-year-old annual military tattoo, a showcase for Britain's armed forces, has usually included bands, cavalry, police dog displays, mock battles and the annual naval field gun race. In recent years, organisers have attempted to steady fluctuating attendance and broaden its family appeal by introducing TV celebrities such as the Gladiators. The replacement show, to be launched in the year 2000, will move away from the indoor venue at Olympia in London and is likely to combine a military tattoo with a display using the latest sound and lighting techniques. Well, that's all the news for this week, and now back to Lara at the Lighthouse.
Thanks, Clive. Next week's programme will be hosted by Doug Alker, and he'll be chairing a crucial debate on the standardisation of British Sign Language. But it looks like we've just got time for one more poem. Enjoy it. Bye.
Sunlight and snow and the woods and you. That was delight. Golden shafts through the naked trees, piercing the white, glancing from glittering rivulets like lifeblood flowing over the mud and the jewelled stones, weaving and glowing. How was the radiance captured there on that shining day? By arrows of sunlight or oaken spears fast in the clay? By the needle points of crystal snow sharpened in the sun, or by that one kiss that will hold me still when all else is gone?